So hello, this is our session or pre-recorded session for today. Good morning to everyone. I want to explain a few things before we begin with the recording of the explanation of the session today. So first of all, the process of recording these videos is taking longer due to an update to the license of Microsoft Teams. So we now have to record the session, download in our equipment or gadget the video, which takes time. Afterwards, we need to upload the video again in order to create the link and then export the link to the virtual classroom. So that's why it's taking longer. So excuse me if I take much more time while we adapt because the videos are taking much more time to be processed. Okay, so now that I explained this, as usual, I'm going to share with you my screen in order to explain you how we're going to work for this term and for today. Okay, so here, first of all, I want to share with you this information for our last term, which is fourth term now. So for this fourth term, I had to make choices. I had to take some decisions because the program for fourth term covers only 4 weeks, in which the first one was last week. So for now we have 8 weeks, and we need to take out semana de receso, so will be 7 weeks, and there is an expo técnica or something like that. So I'm not sure if we are going to have like 6 lessons or something for this term. So I had to pick the most crucial topics for the remaining part of the book and the program to be covered. That's why I chose these topics. So I decided that in terms of grammar, we're going to cover only Unit 10 and Unit 12. Unit 11, in the long run, in relation with those clauses, you can just review them and check them just for, of course, general information for you in terms of grammar if you want, but I had to pick these two. The first one, in Unit 10, we will be covering reported speech, which is typical and probably you will be finding in the Prueba Saber. In order to reduce the documentation for vocabulary, so we're going to work on two sets. Vocabulary A will be covering Unit 10 on Vocabulary 1 and 2 and Unit 11 in Vocabulary 1. And the second set, which is Vocabulary B, the second document on vocabulary, will be covering Unit 11, Vocabulary 2, and Unit 12, Vocabulary 1 and 2. Okay? So I placed here the mock test or prueba saber, but I prefer that when we finish the two grammar sessions, immediately we do the mock test because your test will be in the first days of November, right? So after we finish the two grammar sessions, we're going to take the mock test. Afterwards, we're going to have the document in which you're going to cover the readings on units 10, 11, and 12. And finally, I'm going to grade the notebook. But as you remember, as I am grading 3 aspects, which is the grammar research, the class notes, and the project, the grammar research is what you sent last class that I'm grading, okay? So this is only 1/3 of the whole grade of the notebook. So when we finish like vocabulary and grammar, I will be grading the class notes, and please start working in the project from today. Yes, so don't leave it until the end. So please be working on that. Next class I will be sending, or probably in the chat, now in the private chat, I will be sending you the exact pages and exercises to cover in the project that needs to be included in the notebook document, and finally the portfolio. Now, after making this clear, we're going to continue in Unit 10 in grammar. And the topic for today, as you already know, because you already did your research or homework or grammar homework, is in relation to reported speech. So we're going to see the basics of reported speech, which is a common topic on Prueba Saber. There are other features that you see in the interrogative form, in the negative form, for questions, but here we're going to cover the basics in the affirmative form, okay? Now, first of all, we're going to check the definition of reported speech. We can define it as is the grammar we use if we want to tell another person about a conversation that took place in the past, a telephone call, news, or story that someone told us. So, for example, in this picture, we see that this guy is saying, "I'm feeling ill." And here we have the third party or other two people talking about what he said. And here in this interaction, we find this woman saying, "Where's Tom?" And the other guy says or reports, "He said he was feeling well." If you see the tense in the direct speech and reported speech changes dramatically in now we can see or perceive it basically in the grammar or the tense of the verb. So now we're going to go into detail. What has changed? So first, in the direct speech, we see that the pronouns are the typicals, like the possessives or the personal pronouns, or the tenses. For example, these two verbs, love in the present tense, for example, or sometimes words or adverbs, for example, tonight. But when we use the reported speech, we need to change them. So as we are talking about the third party, for example, in the possessive, we need to talk about her or him, or in the personal pronoun, we talk about he or she, basically. And we need to change the tense of the verbs. In this case, for example, if the expression uses verbs in the simple present, we need to change them into the simple past, but there are other changes. And the time expressions, for example, in direct speech, we use the word tonight. In the reported speech, we changed it into that night. Okay. Now, there are some expressions or words that dramatically change between direct speech and reported speech. Some words in time, for example, we have now that changes into then. Today, that day, this week, that week. Tomorrow, the next day. Yesterday, the day before, and last week, the week before. And when we report an idea that includes places, we don't say here, because this is direct speech, but in reported speech, we say there, this, that, these, and those, okay, as determiners. Now, here we have some verbs, and let's see how we change them. So we say that in reported speech, we preferably use the past tense, but this is the basic, but there are other tenses, right? So for example, if we are using the verb be, so it becomes the past of the verb be, which is was or were. So if it's have or has, either as a main verb or as an auxiliary, it changes into had or see into so. The modal verbs also change, some of them, for example, can or can't, into could or couldn't. And the forms in future, will or won't, may change into wouldn't, would or wouldn't. Okay, now in the case of tenses, yes, for example, we have the past simple, which for the reported speech, that derives from the present simple, okay? Here we have the present continuous in these two examples, and how we change them into past continuous. Present continuous changes into the reported speech to past continuous, like was doing or were doing. And if we are using the present perfect in the direct speech, so the direct speech, when we report, we make the report in the past perfect. So this idea, as a conclusion, is that we move one tense back in order to report. Okay, now here we have some expressions in which we are talking about direct speech and report speech. One way to express it is that we describe directly the person. For example, Carol, and she says, check the spelling before you print out your paper. This is like the imperative form, right? In order to report imperative statements, we say, Carol told me, ella me dijo, to check the spelling before I printed out the paper. And here we find that after the told me, that is the reporting expression, we use the infinitive of the verb. You can stop this slide in order to check the examples 2, 3, and 4. Now, there are other ways to use the reported speech, which is, of course, changing the pronouns, the verb tense, the expressions of time and place, as I already explained in the previous slide. So for example, if we have the indirect speech, I've seen this man before, so we need to change. This is the present, for example, here we have present perfect, so it needs to change in the past perfect. If we have this, the determiner, we need to change it into that, right? And we can also include a reporting verb. For example, she told him that she had seen, so we change the tense, that mom before. If this is in present simple, it changes into past simple. If this is in with a future will, we use would. Yes? And the time expressions here, there, today, that day, tomorrow, next day. So we need to be careful changing pronouns, verb tenses, and words in relation with time and place. Now, let's go over this detail. You often report what people have said in your own words, and when you do that, you use reporting verbs. For example, said, claim, complain, promise, agree, insist, explain, and warn. Let's have a look at the first two examples. If in direct speech I say, I'm trying to be helpful, in the reporter speech, I can report in this way. He claimed that he was trying to be helpful. Here, claim is like trying to make noticeable a fact. Okay. Second one, I'm in trouble. I need your help, or I need help. And here it's complain, because as this person is talking about trouble, I can use the word or the verb complain. She complained that she was in trouble and needed help. If you see, if this I'm in trouble, so I'm is in present and I need is in present. And here we have was in trouble and needed help. So both verbs turn into simple past. And of course, you can check the tenses in the other examples. You can stop the slide here in order to check. These are the basics in relation with the reported speech. So what you need to do is to go over the grammar 1 on unit 10 to send today as your PDF. Please don't forget to mark it very well. Last name, first name, and course. Otherwise, if you just simply tell me English homework, I say I reduce your grade into 0.5. Be careful because this is the last term, so you need to be very careful with that. So good luck, and next class, remember that we'll jump over directly to unit 12, okay? So that's all for today, and thanks a lot for paying attention to this presentation of today. Don't forget all the things that we have explained at the beginning of the video. Thanks a lot.